Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for dropping by. Last month, you may recall, I dropped a 5-part series called Sola Fidelity, Salvation by Faithfulness Alone. And I don't know, it's about a total of 3 hours, all 5 parts. Some of you watched all of them. Some of you haven't seen any of them yet. Uh, But there's something that comes out of that 5-part series, which is going to be this 3-part series, which is a word study about save and salvation. 2 words, the verb that gets translated save and the noun salvation. Because if that 5-part series that I did, salvation by faithfulness alone, if that is correct, if I was correct, if my findings were correct, if I'm right that the people who put our Bibles into English played fast and loose with certain key words in the pistis word group, specifically 4100, G4100, pistou, it's translated belief all over the New Testament, where it can and should be in many places translated give faith, give allegiance. Or the noun 4102, G4102, pistis, which gets translated in the ambiguous English word faith, which can mean allegiance or it can mean belief, depends on the context. Okay? That 5-part series, I documented how the translators, the Calvitards and the Lutholaters, those who come out of the camp of Jihad Johnny Calvin, and the anti-Semite Martin Luther, they are the ones who put our Bibles into English in the 1500s, and it has been, their examples have been slavishly followed by Protestant English translators ever since. And my thesis in that 5-part series was that we have been run amok by their translating legerdemain. They played fast and loose with key words in order to arrive at predetermined soteriological and ecclesiological destinations, destinations that they held dear. So again, they played fast and loose with certain words. Now, if my thesis about that is correct, and you can look at the series yourself and see, but if my thesis is correct, a word study of the coined verb sótéria, that's to save. It's actually the infinitive, sótéria. The coined verb and the coined noun, which gets translated into English as save and salvation. A study of where those 2 words appear in the New Testament should either confirm my thesis that salvation is indeed by faithfulness alone, or it should neatly refute it. One of the 2 will happen by this word study. My 5-part series, Salvation by Faithfulness Alone, will either be confirmed by this 3-part series, or it's going to be blown away by it. One of the 2. So we're going to go through it together, and then you will see for yourself if I'm onto something or not. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go through the Gospels. This is part 1. We're going to search the Gospels for everywhere save and salvation appear. Save in its cognate, the verb, and salvation, the noun. Okay? So wherever we see these 2 words appear in the Gospels, if I'm right that salvation is by faithfulness alone, that should be confirmed, or it's going to be refuted by an examination of where those 2 words appear in the Gospels. The verb save, the noun salvation. So I'm either going to be proven right or I'm going to be proven wrong by this study of those 2 words in the New Testament. Part 1 is going to be the study of them in the Gospels. Part 2, we'll go through the Pauline correspondence and see where save and salvation appear. And part 3 will deal with the rest of the New Testament, the letters of Peter, the letters of John, author of Hebrews, book of Revelation. Okay, but today we're going to start with the Gospels. We're going to look in the New Revised Standard Version, the updated edition, and see where the verb save or saved appears. And then we're going to look at where salvation appears in the four Gospels. Okay? And then we'll see what it's talking about. Have people been saved? Are they already saved? If not, why not? Well, let's have a look. Let's see what we find. Stand by. Okay, so I'm going to spare you the PowerPoint and the Word program today. We're simply going to use a very common resource, BibleGateway.com, and we're just going to do a word search in the Gospels. Again, the verb that gets translated save, and the noun that gets translated salvation. So we're going to look where they appear in all four Gospels and see what they're saying about salvation, about being saved. Let's have a look. All right, so here you see I'm up. I have save here in the window. I've requested for all the appearances of the word save. As it appears, this is the New Revised Standard Version, updated edition. The reason I'm not using the King James is because in the King James Version, the word save serves as a synonym for accept. So rather than confuse you or waste our time when the word means accept, save this one, save that, or it means minus this one. No, we're talking about save in the soteriological sense. The sense, are we justified for heaven or not? All right, so here I am. I've got the book of Matthew here highlighted. And in the book of Matthew, the verb save appears 11 times. So let's just take a look here. Matthew 1:21. She will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. It's straightforward enough. He will save his people. That's future tense, obviously. Matthew 8:25. And they went and woke him up, saying, Lord, save us, we are perishing. Well, you know this story here. That's when they're in the boat crossing the water, crossing a river, the Sea of Galilee, I believe it was. And a mighty storm arose up. And so the disciples said, Lord, save us. Well, he's not talking about save us from hell, are they? They're talking about save us from this terrible storm that's about to drown us. So Matthew 8:25 is of no help to those who are saying that, yes, indeed, you are already saved and going to heaven. Moving down, Matthew 10:22, and you will be hated by all because of my name, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. Okay, now this could indeed be talking about future salvation from heaven or hell. But again, it's not saying they are saved, it's saying they will be saved if they endure to the end. Matthew 14:30. But when he noticed a strong wind, he became frightened. And beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. That was Peter again. I guess this is another retelling of a story of another near drowning. But of course, when he says, Lord, save me, he's not talking about save me from hell. He's talking about save me from being drowned. Matthew 16:25. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. Well, this, I believe, is talking about eternal salvation. But again, it's talking about future tense. Those who want to save their life will lose it. Those who lose their life for my sake will find it. So again, no one is saved yet here. Matthew 19:25. When the disciples heard this, they were greatly astounded and said, then who can be saved? All right, this in context here, this is talking about the rich young ruler, if I recall. And Jesus has just told them, it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to go to heaven. Then who can be saved? Strangely, they don't ask who is saved. They said who can be saved. So again, Matthew 19:25 is of no help to anyone saying that we're already saved. Matthew 24:13. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. This is the second time this phrase has been repeated in this gospel. The one who endures to the end will be saved. Let's say you're already saved. It says if you endure to the end, you'll be saved. Matthew 24:22. And if those days had not been cut short, no one would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. I think we're talking about this context, their life, their physical life will be saved from the tribulation, from the persecution that will be happening in these last days. This is not talking about saving them from condemnation. Matthew 27:40, and saying, you who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross. So this is when Jesus is on the cross. He's being taunted by some of the Pharisees. Save yourself, come down from the cross. You could build a temple. Well, of course, they're not talking about heaven or hell here. They're talking about saving his life from being executed on the cross. And finally, Matthew, we have two more in Matthew here, 27:42. And again, this is from the cross. He saved others, he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in him. Again, he's being taunted by the Pharisees here. This is not talking about heaven or hell. 27:49, but the other said, wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. Again, on the cross. Down for a moment. So we saw in the Gospel of Matthew, where the verb save, that gets translated save or saved, is being used, no one is said to be saved from heaven or hell. Not in Matthew, at least. Let's see what Mark says. Okay, Matthew, or I should say Mark's gospel is quite a bit shorter than Matthew's, and so the verb that gets translated save or saved appears only 8 times, where in Matthew it appeared 11, in Mark we have it 8 times. Let's go through them. Mark 3:4, then he said to them, is it lawful to do good or do harm on the Sabbath, to save life or to kill? But they were silent. Well, again, this is not talking about eternal salvation, not in Mark 3:4. Mark 8:35, for those who want to save their life will lose it. And those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. This is almost certainly talking about eternal salvation. But once again, will save it. He's talking about future tense here. He's not saying anybody's saved. He's saying if they do this, then their life will be saved. They haven't saved it yet by believing in something. Mark 10:26, they were greatly astounded and said to one another, then who can be saved? Well, again, this is the story of the rich young ruler, and Jesus said, it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich person to go to heaven. So that may be talking about eternal life here. But it says who can be saved. Again, you'll notice they're not asking who is saved. He's saying who can be saved. Again, this is of no help to someone who is claiming that they have already been saved because they believe something. Mark 13:13. And you will be hated by all nations of my name, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. Again, future tense. Mark 13:20. And if the Lord had not cut short those days, no one would be saved. But for the sake of the elect whom he chose, he has cut short those days. Again, this is a discussion of the tribulation, Mark 13, the days just before Christ returns. And I believe, again, he's talking about saving the life, the physical life of those who are in danger at that point, those who are being persecuted by the Antichrist. There's nothing about heaven or hell in Mark 13:20. Mark 15:30 records another taunt while he was up on the cross. It says, "Save yourself and come down from the cross." Mark 15:31, in the same way the chief priests, along with the scribes, were mocking him, saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself." And finally, Mark 16:16, the one who believes and is baptized will be saved, but the one who does not believe will be condemned. The one who believes and is baptized will be saved. Not is saved, but will be. This is of no help to those who are claiming that they are already saved, is it? Let's have a look at Luke. And Luke, I see we have 13 appearances. Luke is, I believe, the longest of the three synoptics, and we have 13 appearances of the verb that gets translated save or save. Luke 171, that we would be saved from our enemies and from the hand of all who hate us. All right, let's have a look in context what that's talking about. Luke 70, as he spoke through the mouth of his holy prophets from of old, that we would be saved from our enemies and from the hand of all who hate us. Thus he has shown the mercy promised to our ancestors, and he has remembered his holy covenant. Well, this is Zechariah, who is the father of John the Baptist, and he is talking about the Messiah, Jesus, and he's saying that we would be saved, we being us Jews, will be saved from our enemies, from the hand of all who hate us. So this is not talking about eternal salvation. This is talking about the Messiah, who's going to restore the Davidic kingdom and save them from the enemies who've been plundering them for centuries. Not talking about eternal salvation, justification here. Let's go back. Luke 6:9. Then Jesus said to them, I ask you, is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save life or to destroy it? Well, we saw this in the other synoptic gospels, and no, it's obviously not talking about eternal salvation. Here is the one place in the four gospels that those who are claiming they've already been saved can seize on. This one verse. Let's look at it in context. Luke 7:50. Verse 49, but those who were at the table with him began to say among themselves, who is this who even forgives sins? But he said to the woman, your faith has saved you, go in peace. All right, we could actually go back further up into the chapter where it talks about this woman who is a sinner, who has joined Jesus at his table. Jesus has been invited into the house of a Pharisee, one of the more respectable figures. And this woman, who is described as a sinner, comes in and begins weeping, crying on Jesus's feet, and dries his feet with her hair. And she is just simply crying because of her sin. She's asking forgiveness in the only way she can, by coming to this holy man, someone who she knows has the Spirit of God, and begging forgiveness of God through him. And the Pharisee, he can't understand why Jesus has not thrown this woman out. But Jesus explains that she has shown more courtesy to him than you, the Pharisee, has. And her faith has saved her. In other words, her allegiance, her fidelity to him. It's certainly not her faith in him saving her from her sins, because he hasn't paid the penalty for her sins yet. But she recognized this is a man of God. And she comes to him and begs forgiveness from God through him. Jesus recognizes this, of course, and he says to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. So the question is, what has she been saved from? And the answer is she's been saved from her sin guiltiness. But has she been saved for all time? Or has she simply been relieved of her sin guilt? This passage here in Luke doesn't say what that sin guilt is. It doesn't tell us if she's a murderer, if she's a witch, or if she's an adulterer. We don't know. But it does say she was a sinner. And Jesus has said, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. Does he mean that you are saved now for all time to do whatever you like afterwards? Your sins that come after today won't matter because your faith saved you today? No. What he's saying is, your fidelity to me has relieved you of your sin guiltiness. But again, what did we see in the other synoptics? It says, the one who endures to the end will be saved. Is he accepting her from that? Or does she have to endure to the end too? Use your judgment on that. Go back here. See what else Luke has to say here. Luke 8:12. The ones on the path are those who have heard. Then the devil comes and takes away the word from their hearts, so they may not believe and be saved. Right? I believe this is the parable of the sower and the seed. This is the seed that falls on the wayside, and the devil takes the word or the teaching away from their hearts so that they may not believe, give faith, give allegiance, and be saved. But again, I believe this is talking about eternal salvation. But again, it says, and be saved. This is future. Not believe and are saved. And be saved. Luke 8:50, when Jesus heard this, he replied, do not be afraid, only believe, and she will be saved. Okay, so Luke 8:50 in context. This is about a little girl who has just died, and the mother pleads with Jesus to save her, to bring her back. And Jesus responds by saying, do not be afraid, only believe, and she will be saved. Only believe, or only show fidelity to me, and she will be saved. And of course, in this context, he's not talking about hell. He's talking about she's going to be restored to life, quite obviously. Luke 9:24, for those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will save it. Again, this is almost certainly talking about eternal salvation, but notice the tense, will save it. Let's say those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lost their life for my sake have already saved it. No, it says will save it. Luke 13:23, someone asked him, Lord, will only a few be saved? Okay, so let's look at it in context. Jesus went through one town and village after another, teaching as he made his way to Jerusalem. Someone asked him, Lord, Will only a few be saved? He said to them, strive to enter through the narrow door, for many, I tell you, will try to enter and will not be able. Nobody asked him, Lord, are only a few saved? They said, Lord, will only a few be saved? So apparently even the questioner doesn't presume that anyone is saved yet. Luke 18:26. This is a parallel from the other Gospels about when Jesus says it's easier for the eye for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to go to heaven. So 18:26. Then those who heard it, then who can be saved? Again, if it's so hard for a rich man to go to heaven, who can be saved? They don't ask who is saved. They ask who can be saved. Luke 18:42, Jesus said to him, receive your sight. Your faith has saved you. Is he talking about saved you from hell? No, he's saying your faith has saved you from blindness, obviously. Luke 19:10, for the Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost. Okay. Doesn't say they've already been saved. Luke 23:35, and the people stood by watching, but the leaders scoffed at him, saying, he saved others, let him save himself, if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one. And another taunt while he's on the cross. And so is Luke 23:37. And Luke 23:39. Down for a moment here. So we've been through Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and we've looked at the verb that gets translated save or saved. And the only place we see in those three synoptic gospels where that verb suggests somebody might already be saved from hell is Luke 7:50. But again, as I say, even though it's clearly saying she has been saved from sin guiltiness in Luke 7:50, I don't see anything that says where it says you've been saved from hell from your faith. You have been saved for all time. You are saved from now till doomsday. No, it says repeatedly in the synoptic gospels, the one who endures to the end will be saved. I believe Luke 7:50 says that that woman went out of there righteous. And one thing I want to make clear here, just because you haven't been saved yet doesn't mean that you are not currently righteous. Yes, you can indeed be in a state of grace right now. What I'm saying is that what is happening right now, or isn't, that is not, doesn't mean it's settled for all time. You can be in a state of righteousness with Christ right now. If you have made him the master of your life, you have transferred executive authority of yourself to his throne, and his glorification is the organizing principle of your life, not your glorification. Yes, you stand in a righteous place with God. You are, in a sense, saved, but you're not saved until you're saved. We haven't appeared before the judgment seat of Christ yet. As it says in 2 Corinthians 5:10, we must all appear there to see what we have done in the body, either good or bad. We have not been judged yet. So you can be in a state of righteousness today, and 10 years from now, you could be in complete rebellion from the throne. And what's your state of righteousness today? How will that help you 10 years from now if you're in a state of all-out rebellion from the throne? What does it say? The one who endures to the end will be saved. So I know some of this teaching can be tough to listen to, but let's go with what the biblical data says. Let's be led by that and not our wishful thinking. So let's look at that last gospel, John, and see where that verb saved appears. Okay, well, in the Gospel of John, I see it only appears 5 times. So let's go through them. John 3:17. Indeed, God did not send the Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. Fine. It doesn't say anyone has already been saved through him. The world might be saved through him. John 5:34. Not that I accept such human testimony, but I say these things so that you may be saved. John 10:9. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. Again, it doesn't say anyone who enters by me has been saved and will go in and go out and find. It says will be saved. John 12:27. Now my soul is troubled. And what should I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, it's for this reason that I have come to this hour. Obviously, John 12:27 is not talking about us. John 12:47. I do not judge anyone who hears my words and does not keep them. For I came not to judge the world, but to save the world. Hey, well, the Gospel of John is of no help to those who are claiming they're already saved. Not getting that from the verb save in the Gospel of John. So, down for a moment. So we've looked at all 4 Gospels where the verb that gets translated save or saved appears, and we saw there was only one case that might offer some hope for those who are claiming that the Gospels say you've already been saved. That is in Luke 7:50, where the sinful woman has been told, go in peace, your faith has saved you. I don't think that verse is talking about you've been saved now, from now on, no matter what you do. I think that would be a very hard reading of that verse, especially when you look at how many times it appears in the other Gospels where Jesus is emphasizing that only those who endure to the end will be saved. But I believe she walked out of the room that day without sin guilt, the sin that she had committed. But I don't think that would give her a license to sin in the future. I think she too will be judged by her works, as Jesus says in Revelation 22:12. Now I want to take a look at where the noun salvation appears in the 4 Gospels. This doesn't appear anywhere near as often as the verb save, saved. So we should be able to go through this relatively quickly. After that, we'll be done with the Gospels. And the next study, we'll look at both words, saved, salvation, the verb and the noun. We're going to look at both of them in the Pauline correspondence, those 13 documents attributed to Paul. Today, we're doing the Gospels. So again, let's look at where this noun salvation appears in the 4 Gospels, and let's see whether it argues for anyone already being saved, whether salvation is indeed by faithfulness alone. Let's take a look at the word that we're actually studying here in the 4 Gospels in this segment. Sótéria, which, as you can see, or maybe you can't see, it's Strong's 4991. And this is a noun. The definition is deliverance or salvation, and the usage includes welfare, prosperity, deliverance, preservation, salvation, and safety. And there's also an adjective which follows 4992, sótérios. And its definition is saving, bringing salvation. And the usage is saving, bringing salvation, or just salvation. So we have an adjective and we have a noun that gets translated salvation in our New Testaments. And it can mean prosperity, it can mean deliverance, it could mean eternal salvation. Again, it all depends on the context here. Down for a moment and see if I can go back here. Okay, yes. All right, so as it turns out, there's only 5 usages of this noun or adjective in the 4 Gospels. In Matthew and Mark, surprisingly, it does not appear at all. Salvation does not appear in the Gospels of Matthew and Mark, neither the noun or the adjective. But here in Luke, it appears 4 times. And the first time it appears, it's in 177. This is where Zechariah is talking about his son, John the Baptist. And I'll put it in context for you. Zechariah, the father, says, "And you, child, will be called the prophet of the Most High, for you will go before the Lord to prepare his ways, to give his people knowledge of salvation by the forgiveness of their sins. Because of the tender mercy of our God, the dawn from on high will break upon us." So again, Zechariah here, little speech which begins about 6 verses higher. Now before he'd been talking about the Messiah, now he's talking about his son who will be announcing the Messiah. And it says he will give his people knowledge of salvation by the forgiveness of their sins. Okay, but that is not talking about anyone being already saved, obviously. Luke 2:30, "For my eyes have seen your salvation." Okay, well, this is a righteous man named Simeon who has just witnessed the Messiah being brought in for his circumcision. He's in the temple and he sees that Jesus is being circumcised on the 8th day. And he's been waiting for the Savior of Israel his whole life. He's an old man. And he says, "My eyes have seen your salvation." He's seen the baby Jesus. But again, he's not saying anybody is saved. Luke 3:6, "And all flesh shall see the salvation of God." Shall see the salvation of God is not being saved, is it? Then Jesus said to him, that's Zacchaeus, this tax collector, "Today salvation has come to this house because he too is a son of Abraham." Now this, with a great deal of difficulty, you can say that Zacchaeus has become saved because Jesus said, "Today salvation has come to this house because he too is a son of Abraham." But what sort of salvation? Again, we saw the usage. This noun can be translated deliverance or prosperity. The usage is that. So why are we assuming that Jesus is talking about Zacchaeus, the tax collector, has suddenly become all saved from his sins for all time? That is a very hard reading of this verse. That is a real stretch. No, today salvation has come. Today, real prosperity has come to this house. Deliverance from wickedness has come to this house. Zacchaeus is going to stand before the judgment seat of Christ like the rest of us. Let's go to the last appearance of this noun in the Gospels. John 4:22. Jesus is talking to the woman at the well. We know this famous story. "You worship what you do not know," he tells her. "We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jews." In other words, the Jews are worshiping the true God, you're worshiping idols. This is of no help to anyone who's claiming they've already been saved. We went through the four Gospels. There is nothing in the four Gospels that could cause anyone to conclude people are already saved from their sins eternally and forever. No. You have one case in Luke 7:50 where a woman has been told that her sins were forgiven. These are sins that she's already committed. She wasn't told that her future sins have been forgiven. And how could she? If you haven't committed the sin, you're not guilty of it yet. So obviously, Jesus was talking about the sins you have already committed. They are forgiven. Your faith, your fidelity to me is what caused you to be forgiven of those sins. But he's not talking about future sins. Because again, if you haven't committed those sins, you're not guilty of it. You don't need forgiveness. So that makes no sense at all. Jesus said to that woman who cried on his feet and dried his feet with her hair, that your sins, what you've done in the past, that's past now. You've shown me fidelity. You're okay with God now. And again, I want to re-emphasize this. Just because you haven't been saved, declared righteous yet, doesn't mean you cannot stand in a state of righteousness today. You most certainly can. My point here is saying that because you are in a state of righteousness now, don't think this is a done deal, that everything else has been settled. No, you have to pick up your cross every day. You have to follow that long and hard road that leads to life. Jesus said the one who endures to the end will be saved. He hasn't said nowhere in these Gospels, you've already been saved. Not there. Part 2, we'll look at the Pauline correspondence. Again, the same thing. We're looking at the noun, the adjective, salvation, and the verb, saved. See where it appears in all of the Pauline correspondence. And then I will either be refuted or I will be affirmed. Salvation by faithfulness alone. Be back soon.